In 1897, the Rothschilds found the Zionist Congress to promote Zionism, a political movement with the sole aim of moving all Jews into a singularly Jewish national state, and arranged its first meeting in Munich. However, due to extreme opposition from local Jews who are quite happy where they are, this meeting has to be moved to Basel, Switzerland, and takes place on the 29th of August of that year. The meeting is chaired by Ashkenazi Jew Theodor Herzl, who would state in his diaries, "It is essential that the suffering of Jews become worse. This will assist in realization of our plans. I have an excellent idea. I shall induce anti-Semites to liquidate Jewish wealth. The anti-Semites will assist us thereby, and that they will strengthen the persecution and oppression of Jews. The anti-Semites shall be our best friends." Herzl is subsequently elected president of the Zionist organization, which adopts the Rothschild red hexagram or sign as the Zionist flag, which 51 years later will end up as the flag of Israel. Edward Henry Harriman becomes a director of the Union Pacific Railroad and goes on to take control of the Southern Pacific Railroad. This is all financed by the Rothschilds. In 1898, Ferdinand D. Rothschild dies. In 1901, the Jews from the colonies set up in Palestine by Edmund James D. Rothschild sends a delegation to him which tell him, "If you wish to save the Yishuv, the Jewish settlement, first take your hands from it, and for once permit the colonists to have the possibility of correcting for themselves what needs corrected." Edmund James D. Rothschild is very angry about this and states, "I created the Yishuv, I alone. Therefore no man, neither colonist nor organizations, have the right to interfere in my plans." The Rothschild banking house in Frankfurt, Germany, M.A. von Rothschild und Sohn, closes as there is no male Rothschild heir to take it on. In 1902, Philip D. Rothschild is born. In 1905, a group of Rothschild-backed Zionist Jews led by Georgy Apollonovich Gapon attempt to overthrow the Tsar of Russia in a communist coup. They fall and are forced to flee Russia, only to be given refuge in Germany. In the Jewish Encyclopedia in Volume 2, on page 497, it states, "It is a somewhat curious sequel to the attempt to set up a Catholic competitor to the Rothschilds, that at the present time the latter are the guardians of the papal treasure." In 1906, the Rothschilds claimed that due to growing instability in the region and increasing competition from Rockefeller, the Rockefeller family, or Rothschild descendants through a female bloodline, own Standard Oil. This is why they sell their Caspian and Black Sea Petroleum Company to Royal Dutch and Shell. This is another example of the Rothschilds trying to hide their true wealth. In 1907, Rothschild Jacob Schiff, the head of Kuhn, Loeb and Company, in a speech to the New York Chamber of Commerce, warns that unless we have a central bank with adequate control of the credit resources, this country is going to undergo the most severe and far-reaching money panic in its history. Suddenly, America finds itself in the middle of another typical run-of-the-mill Rothschild-engineered financial crisis, which ruins, as usual, the ruins of lives of millions of innocent people throughout America, and makes trillions for the Rothschilds. In 1909, Jacob Schiff founds the National Advancement for the Association of the Colored People, the NAACP. This was done to incite black people into rioting, looting, and other forms of disorder in order to cause a rift between the black and white communities. Jewish historian Howard Sakar states the following in his book, A History of the Jews in America. In 1914, Professor Emeritus Joel Spingarn of Columbia University became chairman of the NAACP and recruited for its board such Jewish leaders as Jacob Schiff, Jacob Bilikoff, and Rabbi Stephen Wise. Other Ashkenazi Jew co-founders included Julius Rosenthal, Lillian Wald, and Rabbi Emil G. Hirsch. It was not until 1920 that the NAACP appointed its first black president, James Weldon Johnson. Maurice de Rothschild marries Ashkenazi Jew Naomi Halfin. In 1911, Werner Sombart, in his book The Jews and Modern Capitalism, stated that from 1820 on it was the age of the Rothschild, and concluded that there was only one power in Europe, and that is Rothschild. In 1912, in the December issue of Truth magazine, George R. Conroy states of banker Jacob Schiff, Mr. Schiff is head of the great private banking house of Kuhn, Loeb and Company, which represents the Rothschilds' interests on this side of the Atlantic. He has been described as financial strategist and has been for years the financial minister of the great impersonal power known as Standard Oil. He was hand in glove with the Harrimans, the Goulds, and the Rockefellers and all their railroad enterprises, and has become the dominant power in the railroad and financial power of America. In 1913, on March 4th, Woodrow Wilson is elected the 28th President of the United States. Shortly after he is inaugurated, he is visited in the White House by Ashkenazi Jew Samuel Untermeyer of law firm Guggenheim. Untermeyer and Marshall, who tries to blackmail him for the sum of $40,000 in relation to an affair Wilson had while he was a professor at Princeton University with a fellow professor's wife. President Wilson does not have the money, so Untermeyer volunteers to pay the $40,000 out of his own pocket to the woman Wilson had the affair with, on the condition that Wilson promised to appoint to the first vacancy on the United States Supreme Court a nominee to be recommended to President Wilson by Untermeyer. Wilson agrees to this. Jacob Schiff sets up the Anti-Defamation League, ADL, in the United States. This organization is formed to slander anyone who questions or challenges the Rothschilds' global conspiracy as anti-Semitic. Strangely enough, the same year that they do this, they also set up their last and current central bank in America, the Federal Reserve. Congressman Charles Lindbergh stated, following the passing of the Federal Reserve Act on December 23, 1913, he stated, "The act establishes the most gigantic trust on earth. When the President signs this bill, the invisible government of the monetary power will be legalized. The greatest crime of the ages is perpetrated by this banking and currency bill." It is important to note that the Federal Reserve is a private company. It is neither federal, nor does it have any reserves. It is conservatively estimated that profits exceed $150 billion per year, and the Federal Reserve has never once in its history published public records or accounts. In 1914, the start of World War I, in this war, the German Rothschilds loaned money to the Germans, the British Rothschilds loaned money to the British, and the French Rothschilds loaned money to the French. Furthermore, the Rothschilds have control of the 3 European news agencies: Wolf, established in 1849 in Germany, Reuters, established in 1851 in England, and Havas, established in 1835 in France, a virtual monopoly of the media.